The digital clock on my screen glowed with 5 defiant minutes of freedom when I tore open the crinkling foil of my afternoon indulgence. Crumbs scattered like tiny rebels across the keyboard as I nudged the bag toward Zoe, whose laughter dissolved mid-sentence when her scrolling thumb froze against glowing glass. Her gasp cut through our shared mundanity. Emily, the name hung in the air like a condemned verdict. You're marrying Ryan. A cashew tumbled from her slack fingers as she launched toward me, her touch a feather-light reprimand against my sleeve. You absolute asteroid. How do you bury news that seismic? Her phone became an accusatory beacon, bathing my face in the blue light glow of betrayal. I only knew because Ryan broadcast it to the digital cosmos. My own snack turned to dust on my tongue. Together we watched, two satellites orbiting a collapsing star, as a saccharine melody tinny as forgotten music boxes accompanied the carousel of images. There he was, in every frame, Ryan, with his 5 years of my life smile, his arm now permanently claimed by a dimpled stranger whose face tugged at the frayed edges of my memory. A junior from college, I recalled vaguely, now immortalized in digitally rendered bouquets. My fingers, moving with autonomous precision, dove into the album's heart. The images blurred under my desperate zoom, too perfect, two uniform template-generated fantasies where anyone could slot their faces into prefabricated happiness. The comments raged below like a digital typhoon, congratulations blooming alongside confused interrogations, blunt observations hanging like executioners' axes. Finally landed the beauty, one declared, each word a nail in the coffin of what I thought was my future. His ex looked like a washed-up housewife, not fresh and pretty like this one. Zoe saw it too when she realized I wasn't the bride. She was first shocked, then visibly uncomfortable. At 6, Emily, I am heading out now. See you Monday, she said awkwardly. I waved her off after everyone had left. I could no longer hold back the calm expression I'd been forcing. I opened my own moments feed on my phone, but Ryan's post wasn't there. He had blocked me. Called him. The first call went unanswered. The second was hung up right away. My face tightened and I stubbornly called a third time. Finally, someone picked up. Ryan sounded like he'd had a bit to drink when he realized it was me. There was a hint of impatience in his voice. What is it? I took a breath and demanded, what's the meaning of that? Moments post what? Moments post. I heard him tapping on his screen. There was a pause, then a mocking snort. Oh, probably Melissa posted it. I raised my voice without realizing it. You let her use your phone. Ryan, where are you right now? He muttered something under his breath, then added, fine. I deleted the post. Happy now? Stop making a scene. I was about to say something else when he hung up on me. Furious, I threw my phone across the room. For the past 6 months, Ryan had been like this. Whenever he came home, he'd either be glued to the TV, scrolling through his phone. I tried to talk to him, but he'd fall asleep the moment he hit the bed. One time I couldn't take it anymore and forced a serious conversation. That day, Ryan told me, Emily, you're great in every way, but can you stop pressuring me? I just really don't want to get married right now. I couldn't understand it. If he didn't want to get married, he could have just been honest. There was no need to treat me like that. His eyes had a complicated look as if he were evaluating me. In the end, though, he gave in, held me, apologized and promised it wouldn't happen again. That night, I waited until almost 11 p.m. when I heard a car engine turn off. I stood up and looked out the window. Ryan stumbled out of the passenger seat, swaying as if he were heavily drunk. Just as I was about to go downstairs to help him, someone stepped out from the driver's side. It was Melissa. Her hair was down and she was dressed beautifully. She walked over and caught the wobbling Ryan in her arms. I watched as she patted his shoulder gently like she was soothing a child, whispering softly to him. Ryan smiled unconsciously, his lips curving up, and pulled her even closer. My hands clenched into fists. I couldn't wait another second. Still in my pajamas, I headed downstairs. As the elevator doors opened, I stepped out quickly. Melissa tilted her head slightly. I was sure she saw me, but she still held on to Ryan intimately, even letting his head rest against her shoulder, their faces almost touching. I stopped right in front of them. Melissa looked startled, then bit her lip awkwardly, as if struggling for the right words. Emily, long time no see. Don't get the wrong idea, okay? Ryan drank too much and I didn't feel comfortable letting him drive, so I brought him home. She glanced at me cautiously. You're not mad, are you? I stared at her face. She was definitely young, judging by appearances. I probably looked at least 5 years older than her. 5 years ago, Ryan had been broke. He'd stood outside the girls' dorm holding a cheap bouquet of flowers, his face young and nervous, embarrassed because he couldn't afford anything nicer. His voice trembled as he told me he'd liked me for a long time and asked if I would be his girlfriend. He made a loud promise that he'd earn a lot of money one day and give me the best life possible. His buddies had been teasing him from the side. I didn't really know him that well back then, but I didn't want to embarrass him either. So I said yes. Ryan had always been a driven person aside from being awkward when he confessed to Mayhay was capable in nearly everything else. He quickly earned his first real income, but due to a lack of experience he got scammed out of all of it and ended up deep in debt. It was like he'd fallen from heaven straight into hell, completely defeated. I couldn't bear to watch him spiral, so I worked 3 jobs at once during that time. I not only had to support us financially but also take care of Ryan, who had become a useless wreck, calm his emotions, encourage him, and even learned how to cook all sorts of dishes just to get him to eat. It took me nearly 9 months to help him climb out of that financial hole. He cried like a child, held me tight, and said I was his savior. He swore he'd treat me well for the rest of his life. I believed him. That's why I thought all the hardship and suffering I went through back then was worth it, even though those 9 months made me look years older. Give him back to me, I said, staring at Melissa. There are plenty of men in this world, no need to cling to someone else's boyfriend. It doesn't sound good, you know? Melissa looked defended. What's that supposed to mean? I cut her off. You posted that Moments story, didn't you? She froze, then gave me a loaded look and admitted, frankly, yeah, I posted it. It was just a joke. Today's April Fool's Day. Ryan lost a drinking game at a party and this was his punishment. I thought he might get sick if he drank more, so I suggested this instead. Seriously, don't take it personally. I let out a quiet sigh. I truly didn't want to make a scene. Even though Ryan and I had been having some issues lately, I still believed we had something strong. We'd been through so much together, and I didn't want outside interference messing with us. I reached for Ryan's shoulder and gently pulled him over to lean on me. Thanks for your help. I'll take care of him from here. Slowly, I guided him back toward the building behind me. I heard Melissa stomp her foot. Then she got in her car and drove off. Ryan nuzzled against my ear and let his hand slide onto my chest with practiced ease. He gave it a squeeze, his voice slurred and drunk. Melissa, why does your chest feel smaller? Then he let his hand drop and mumbled, I'm sorry about back then. Ryan's eyes were still shut and tears slipped down the corners of them. I was so broke. I didn't have the courage to love you. I stood frozen. It felt like lightning struck my mind. My thoughts went blank. I couldn't think of anything. He just clenched my teeth and numbly helped him into the room. Ryan was clearly miserable from the alcohol, groaning and mumbling about a pounding headache. If this had been before, I would have gently wiped Ryan's face clean and made him some warm pear water to help him recover. I reached up to my eyes without thinking. They were wet with tears I hadn't even noticed falling. But no, he didn't have the heart to bother with any of that. I shut the bedroom door and sat alone in the living room, lost in thought. I thought about everything in these 5 years with Ryan. There were never any dramatic breakups or reconciliations. I'd never been in a relationship before him. After his awkward confession, I gradually tried to accept him, then fell in love with him, then started to worry about him and take care of him without even meaning to. Even when he began pulling away from me, I never once thought of leaving. We weren't young anymore and my family had been pressuring me to get married, but when Ryan said he wasn't ready, I never held it against him. But I can't tolerate being lied to. Me breathing grew unsteady as I tried to hold back a full emotional collapse. Who was he planning to confess to back then? If everything had been fake from the beginning, then what kind of joke had the past 5 years of my life been? I was so cold. I was trembling. I didn't sleep the entire night. When the sun finally rose and the light touched my skin, I suddenly realized morning had come. Bedroom door opened and Ryan came out. He was loosening his tie. Frowning when he saw me, he instinctively walked over and laid down with his head on my lap. What's going on? He didn't help me shower last night. He rubbed his temples like he had a hangover. Go make me some pear water. I didn't move. I didn't even look at him. Ryan, trying to keep his temper in check, sat up beside me. What now? Still mad that Moments post? I deleted it, didn't I? Can you stop dragging it out? I slowly turned to look at him, locking eyes. I asked word by word, do you like her? Ryan froze. Who? Melissa. You like Melissa? When did that start? At the sound of her name, Ryan's face darkened. Don't start this nonsense. Emily, you're being ridiculous. It's seriously annoying. All the emotion I'd been holding back erupted. Ryan, are you a monster? When you were drowning in debt, I wasn't annoying then, was I? When I took care of you like a maid, I wasn't annoying then, was I? His face grew colder with every word. Don't you dare use your so-called past sacrifices to threaten me. No one forced you to do anything if you didn't want to. You shouldn't have. At that moment, my heart sank completely. It felt like every tear I had in me had already been spent the night before. I couldn't cry anymore. I looked at the man I'd lived with for 5 years and felt like I didn't even know him. Let's break up. Ryan left for work after that, storming out with a face full of anger. He didn't take what I said seriously at all. Wrapped my arms tightly around myself, shivering from the cold that had settled into my chest. I couldn't stop my mind from spiraling. I had to admit what I feared most was that my existence in His life had been nothing but a joke. My mom had scolded me countless times for choosing Ryan. She said I could have had someone better, someone with a future, but I insisted on staying with a broke guy who had nothing going for him except his looks. We fought about it more times than I could count. Last year was the perfect time for us to get married. My mom was worried I'd end up hurt, so she kept pressuring me. I couldn't take it anymore and finally brought it up to Ryan, even suggesting we could at least take some wedding photos to ease her anxiety. Ryan's response was to laugh in my face. A photo shoot will make her feel better. Great. Right after that, she'll be waving the household registration book and pushing us into a courthouse. I was stunned. How can you talk about my mom like that? The company you're running now, my mom helped pull together the startup money, and now you look down on her. Ryan had a strange look in his eyes. I didn't think too much about it at the time. Maybe it wasn't that Ryan looked down on my mom, maybe he just looked down on me. One confession, and he got a woman to give everything for him, who then spent 5 years playing the role of his maid. What was there for him to treasure? I clenched my teeth and slapped myself hard across the face. I checked into a hotel, booked it for 7 days. That night, Ryan didn't call me. Maybe he didn't go home at all, or maybe he just didn't care. It took me a bit of effort, but I managed to track down an old classmate from college. He'd been there the night Ryan confessed to me. From what I remembered, he was a decent guy with a good temper. I found his company and arranged to meet him outside the building. Maybe it was a bit forward, but I didn't have the energy to worry about that anymore. All I needed now was the truth. His name was Chris Joe. He looked surprised when he saw me, but still politely bought me a coffee. What brings you here? He asked. I gripped the cup tightly. My throat felt dry and tight. Can I ask you something? Sure, he said. My breathing started to quicken before I could even speak. My nose stung. Fear suddenly crept in. Chris didn't rush me. He just sipped his coffee and waited for me to ask. Do you remember the day Ryan confessed to me? I said. He said he'd liked me for a really long time. Do you know when he actually started liking me? Chris hesitated for a moment, then gently put down his cup and smiled a little. You two have been together for years. Why are you asking this now? My eyes were red and there was a quiet pleading in my expression he hadn't even realized was there. Please. This really matters to me. Chris fell silent for a long time. He shifted in his seat a few times, clearly uncomfortable when he still didn't speak. I slowly calmed myself. Go ahead, I said. I can take it. Whatever it is. Chris looked at me, then finally said, okay, I'll tell you. As far as I remember, I never heard him talk about you before that night. He was actually planning to confess to another girl, a younger student. A bunch of us went with him that night to support him. He paused, then continued. We'd prepared a lot. When we finally found the girl, she was just getting out of a car. We all recognized the car. It belonged to one of the rich kids at school, someone well known. Chris took a breath. The whole situation was really awkward. Ryan backed off. He didn't dare confess after that, and then you happened to come out of the dorm building and to fence you. It caught all of us off guard. We thought he'd snapped or something, but, well, you know the rest. I thanked him politely, then quietly left the cafe. Chris had tried to say it gently, but I understood everything back then. Ryan had meant to confess to Melissa. I just happened to show up at the right time and saved his pride. I was the unlucky placeholder. Ryan never loved me. That's why he was never going to marry me. All it took was a few casual words from him and I rushed to give him everything I had. Thinking back, I realized Ryan had never said he loved me deeply. I'd never done anything grand for our relationship. Everything was just me, moved by my own feelings, convincing myself it meant something. I thought I had accepted the truth. But the next morning when I looked in the mirror, I noticed 2 strands of white hair near the top of my head. That weekend, a coworker sent me a voice message. He started by apologizing, saying he'd been too impulsive. His loud voice had ended up letting half the office hear the fake wedding news. After the misunderstanding blew up, the entire company had been gossiping behind my back. I calmly replied, it's okay compared to the past 5 years of my life. This kind of gossip was nothing. I took the opportunity to ask about something work-related. Hey, about that department transfer. Oh, that, he said. No one in our department wants to go. Manager's been stressing about it. Why do you ask? I leaned against the bed and didn't respond right away. I hung up the phone later. I spoke to my manager about going abroad as expected. He was thrilled and immediately said he'd help arrange the paperwork, including the visa. Everything would be ready within 2 weeks at the latest. Once I had everything settled and the busy work faded, the sadness crashed down like a wave. I couldn't stop the tears from falling. I wiped them away with a blank expression. There were 15 days left. The company decided to go ahead and give me extended leave. I took the chance to return to my hometown and visit my mom. When she sighed, come back alone, she pursed her lips and said, where's that man of yours? After all these years, he's never even tried to make a good impression on his future mother-in-law. I smiled and took out all the savings I had. Mom, I've been immature before. I am going on a long business trip soon and probably won't be back for a while here. Take this money. My mom refused again and again. That guy's business wasn't easy to start as long as you two are doing well. That's all I care about. I don't need money. Still, she couldn't win against me and finally accepted it. My mom's health was good and recently she had started seeing someone new. The atmosphere between them was nice. I felt a bit out of place while staying with them, but I was genuinely relieved someone was there to take care of her now. My only tie in this country was gone on the 4th day after I left home. Ryan couldn't hold back anymore. He called me. I picked up and his tone sounded a little unnatural. He tried to sound casual and asked, "Hey, where's that blue striped tie of mine?" I thought for a second. Bottom drawer of the wardrobe. He rummaged through it, then in a lower voice asked, "What about my black suit?" I was starting to get irritated. "Find it yourself." "Ryan, I'm not your maid," and I hung up that afternoon. The company contacted me to submit my ID and household registration along with my diplomas. I had the IDs with me, but I'd forgotten where I'd stored the certificates, so I went back to the apartment. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Melissa standing behind Ryan wearing my slippers and gently massaging his temples. I stood at the entrance. Ryan saw me first. He froze for a second, then removed Melissa's hands from his face. His throat bobbed, and he walked toward me. "You're back." I barely glanced at him before walking straight to the study to look for my documents. Ryan followed me in, watching me rummage around without saying a word. He finally asked, "What are you looking for?" I ignored him. I remembered leaving them on top of the bookshelf in the study. I tiptoed and reached up to feel around, but accidentally knocked over a decorative stone piece. It fell, but didn't hit me. Ryan, standing behind me, reached out just in time to block it. I paused for a moment, then continued searching. Ryan suddenly wrapped his arms around me from behind and said coldly, "What are you even looking for? Why won't you talk to me?" But I had no desire to speak to him. I didn't even want to be touched by him. I struggled hard to break free, and just then I heard Melissa cry out from the living room. Ryan immediately let go of me and rushed out. I stood there silently for a moment, then gave myself a bitter smile. Melissa had been slicing fruit. She tried peeling an apple with a paring knife and accidentally licked her finger. The cut was small, but when Ryan saw it, he didn't hesitate. He cupped her hand and brought her fingertip to his mouth. Melissa gasped softly, her cheeks flushing red. "Ryan, don't." She started to say something else, but when she looked up, she saw me standing behind them, holding a few dusty certificates in my hand. Melissa tried to pull her hand back, but Ryan frowned and said in a concerned, "Don't move. It'll be fine in a second. I'll get a band-aid." As soon as he turned around, he met my calm expression directly. "She just scratched herself a little. Don't overthink it." I looked at him and the ache in my chest didn't feel quite as sharp anymore. I remembered how many times I'd cut my fingers while cooking for him, how many blisters I got from splattering oil back then. Ryan had shown some concern, too. He'd hold my hand gently and say, "That must have hurt you. You worked hard." But when I forced a smile and shook my head, pretending I was fine, he dropped it and never brought it up again. So this was what it looked like when Ryan really cared about someone. "Emily, please don't get the wrong idea," Melissa said. Her cheeks were still flushed and her eyes were watery, practically begging for pity. Even before she said a word, Ryan didn't look well at work today, and when I asked, he said, "You weren't home. Did you two get in a fight?" She bit her lip, a faint dimple formed. "It's my fault. I'm sorry. Please don't be mad at him." Ryan didn't like the way that sounded. "This has nothing to do with you," he said, turning to me with a colder tone. "Don't be unreasonable. If you're upset, take it out on me. Don't lash out at Melissa." I stood there silent from beginning to end. I hadn't planned to respond at all until I heard one key: work today. I repeated inwardly, "Melissa, where do you work?" She covered her mouth in surprise, her eyes darting nervously to Ryan. In a small voice, she said, "Wait, Ryan didn't tell you I'm his assistant. I've been working with him for almost 6 months." No, it all clicked at once. So that was it. That's why Ryan had been hot and cold with me these past 6 months. That was the real reason. Now that he was successful, he could finally bring the woman he liked into his life openly and proudly. As for me, the unnecessary maid, he just had to find the right time to toss me aside. Ryan's expression darkened and he quickly changed the subject. "Where have you been the past few days? Why haven't you come home?" I didn't look at him. I simply pulled a key from my pocket and gently placed it into Melissa's hand. "Next time, just come over openly." I looked at her and said evenly, "Ryan gets bad headaches after drinking. Your delicate little massages won't help. I suggest you learn something more effective. Also, I don't know anything about his company, so now that you're his assistant, you'll be responsible for both his business and his home." Ryan snatched the key from Melissa's hand, his face thunderous. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "Exactly what it sounds like," I replied, keeping my eyes on the floor. My voice was flat. "You can have this place. I don't want it anymore." As I prepared to walk out, Ryan still tried to stop me. "Emily, are you really sure you want to break up?" When I didn't respond, Ryan's tone turned anxious. "What's wrong with you lately? You won't even talk to me." "There's nothing going on between me and Melissa if you're breaking up with me." Over that, then what the hell were these past 5 years for? I hadn't intended to escalate things, but hearing Ryan say that pushed me past the edge. My nails dug into my palms so hard they nearly broke the skin. I spun around, stormed up to him and slapped him hard across the face. Ryan, you're the last person who should ever say that to me. Tears poured from my eyes, but I didn't wipe them away. I just glared at him. Stubborn and unyielding. Melissa screamed and rushed over to stop me, but Ryan pushed her aside without even looking. He stared at me, his gaze dark and unreadable. Even after I slapped him, he didn't get angry. He just kept looking at me in a low voice. Ryan asked, "Did someone say something to you?" He gently touched my cheek with his palm, and the tears that had been clinging to my lashes slipped down along his fingertips and hit the floor. Suddenly he noticed the strands of white hair on my head and frowned without thinking. "Why do you have gray hair?" I found it so absurd it was almost funny. In that moment I actually saw a real concern in his eyes, concern that didn't seem fake or performative. "But we were done, completely done, Ryan," I said quietly. "I'm not that cheap. I am not someone who sticks around just to be the maid that someone else doesn't want. Go enjoy the rest of your life with your precious dream girl." I spent the rest of my time in the country living at a hotel during that period. Ryan called me countless times. I got so annoyed I blocked him altogether. A few days later a call came through from an unfamiliar number. It was Melissa. "Emily, do you have a moment? I'd like to talk." Ryan wasn't with her. She didn't even bother calling me Emily politely, just addressed me by name like we were strangers. I let out a mocking laugh. "Whatever it is, you can just say it over the phone. It's hard to explain like this. Can we meet?" Reluctantly, I agreed. We met in Arian's company to accommodate her work schedule. Melissa arrived dressed in a sharp, elegant business outfit. Her makeup was light, but it did nothing to hide her beauty. She came alone. Unlike how timid she'd seen before, she now looked at me with sharp, scrutinizing eyes, as if evaluating me head to toe. "Emily, I'll be honest with you," she said. "With your current looks and status, you're really not a good match for Ryan anymore." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and added, "Maybe you don't know, but Ryan's social circle has changed. He's surrounded by young, beautiful women now's never introduced you to that world, has he?" I nodded. "So what?" Melissa hadn't expected that response and looked taken aback. "If you have something to say, say it. I don't have a lot of patience left for either you or Ryan." She bit her lip, clearly frustrated. "I heard Ryan originally wanted to confess to me years ago. You just happened to show up at the right time and stole that moment. Now that I'm back, if you had any sense you'd leave." I pulled out my phone and showed her the blocked call screen. Ryan's number. Dozens of attempts over just 2 days. "Melissa, my 5 years with Ryan weren't what you imagine. He wasn't always the successful man you see now. He wasn't a boss back then," I said with a sarcastic smile. "Honestly, I should thank you." Your arrival cut short my time as a fool. Only 5 years. Maybe the fact that I clearly had no intention of fighting over him shook something in her. As a woman, she could probably understand things I didn't even need to say out loud. After a pause, she hesitated, then opened her phone gallery. She showed me several photos, wedding portraits, sweet kisses, French style, elegance, poses full of affection. In every photo, Ryan looked genuinely happy, like the bride in his arms was his whole world. These weren't photoshopped. They were real wedding photos of Ryan and Melissa. "We took them about a month ago," she said softly. "I wanted to make it public, but he said you'd been with him for 5 years and he didn't want you to find out too suddenly." I froze. My face was blank. Melissa bit her lip again. "Maybe Ryan really does care about you. Even though I wasn't happy about it, he wouldn't let me throw a fit in front of you." Her voice faded like it was echoing from somewhere far away. I couldn't quite hear it. My head was pounding. I couldn't believe how thoroughly I'd been played. I stared at Melissa's face, at first filled with guilt, then shock. Her face seemed to spin before my eyes. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I had passed out. There was the beeping of medical machines in my ears, a sharp pain in my hand when I moved my fingers. Someone gently grasped them. I opened my eyes and realized I was in a hospital room. Ryan was sitting beside me, his expression heavy and grim. He was sitting by my bedside, head down, staring at me. Our eyes met and neither of us spoke. First, after a while, Ryan brought over a bowl of rice porridge. He blew on it and held it up to my lips. When I didn't move, he nudged it closer. "Have a little," he said. "The doctor said you're malnourished. You haven't been eating well lately, have you?" I wanted to curse him out, but I didn't have the strength to speak. When he saw I wouldn't drink it, Ryan set the bowl aside and picked up a towel clumsily. He began wiping my face. "You've been taking care of me all these years. Now I guess it's my turn." He stared down at the towel in his hands for a while, then suddenly said, "So you know everything?" I didn't have the strength to answer with words, just a faint breath that sounded like a bitter laugh. "I am sorry," he said quietly. I couldn't accept it." He didn't look at me. Maybe he didn't have the courage to. "First, it's true, I didn't like you, but 5 years. Emily, I'm not made of stone. I am not breaking up with you. I'll take care of things with Melissa. I'll make sure you two don't cross paths again. Ryan wanted me to rest and stay in the hospital, just like I hadn't wanted to let go of the past 5 years. He wasn't ready to break free either. He was used to having me by his side. His words were easy to understand. He wouldn't leave me, but he wouldn't leave Melissa either. He just tried to keep us apart in this mess of a lie. There might have been a flicker of sincerity, but he expected me to treat it like something precious. It was ridiculous. While I was trying to figure out how to get out of there, I got a call from the company. My visa had been approved ahead of schedule. If I wanted, I could catch the afternoon flight. The project was classified, requiring involvement in nearly research and extensive social surveys in another country. The pay was low and most young people didn't want to go, so besides the core team, no one else knew about the trip. I pulled out the gathered my things and headed straight to the airport. Even as the plane took off, I couldn't help but think he was such a coward. I didn't even get revenge or reclaim my dignity. But really, what strength did I have left for revenge? I had already given everything I could in the past 5 years. All I had left was a worn-out body. Nothing else. The overseas project moved slowly outside of regular research work. I enrolled in an extra tutoring course. After graduating college, I had spent all my time trying to help Ryan build his career. I'd forgotten most of what I'd learned. The tutor was a private instructor, a mixed-race man with striking features who also spoke Chinese. One day I was memorizing vocabulary when he leaned over from behind me and tapped his finger on something I'd scribbled. Ryan Liu. What's this? He asked with a slight smile. I don't remember that name in any of our course materials. Embarrassed, I quickly tore the paper to shreds. He was empathetic and seemed to understand. Your man? He asked, knowingly. Yuri, thinking about him or hating him? I laughed. It's not a good relationship. I basically worked as his maid for 5 years. He gasped dramatically. Maid services are expensive back home. You must have been paid well. My smile faded. I didn't make a penny. I gave up 5 years of love fresh from a naive young girl for nothing. In my second year abroad, I got an international call. The signal was bad, full of static, and I couldn't make out most of it. I didn't take it seriously until it rang again and again. When I finally answered, it was Melissa. Her voice was shaky with tears. She sounded desperate. Emily, I know this isn't your responsibility anymore, but when Ryan was sick, how did you take care of him? No matter what I do, she said. He says it's wrong. He has a high fever now and he won't let me touch him. I don't know what else to do. I answered calmly. If he's sick, take him to the hospital. He's afraid of needles. When they give him an injection, hold him. Cover his eyes. It helps. Then I heard another voice grabbing the phone. Ryan's slurring and disoriented. Book. I'm back. Babe, when are you coming back? He mumbled. I'll pick you up at the airport. I want your pear water and your cooking. Maybe the fever had made him delirious, but he actually started crying. I miss you so much. I was wrong. I thought I didn't love you that much, but I was so wrong. I heard Melissa shouting in the background. They were arguing. I don't know what they said, but the line suddenly went dead. Even then, I remained calm. Maybe our love had never been pure or passionate, but we had lived together for years. Ryan had become used to having me around. Turns out, love and day-to-day life don't always blend. Ryan and I were stitched together like halves of a mismatched whole. I saw the truth and chose to tear myself away bloody and raw. He didn't feel the loss at first, but over time, the part of him I'd once occupied would begin to itch, then rot until the pain became unbearable. In this tragic love story, all three of us, Ryan, Melissa and I, were fools. There were no winners. That's the end.